I have a job. I have a full-time job, so I can't. I'm studying. I want to meet the students who say they didn't renew because they're studying. But the reason I'm telling you this is because we are reaching out to those students, saying it's a national trend. This isn't just happening at Iowa. But I'm only concerned at why it's happening at Iowa. So we're meeting with students saying, tell us why. What more can we do? And that's part of these promotions that we're going to be putting out. You're going to see a response to some of those things about how we can get the students back in. How can we have it continue to be more fun, etc. So you're going to see that on the promotional side of the public. We're launching. We have a fun statewide promotion with one of our corporate partners that you're going to be hearing about pretty quickly, and I think that's going to be exciting. We have group sales. At the end of the day, Ball State has a lot of tickets to sell. I think we're right around 10,000 tickets to sell, including the student section, so it's everything all in. I'm just looking at how many more tickets do we have to sell there. To the other extreme, and again, this is a moving target. It's changing every day. If I go there this morning, we might sell another 500 for certain games. But I think the closest game to us, I know the closest game to a sellout is Iowa State, and there's probably Wisconsin, Nebraska are the next closest, and we're pretty likely, there's a good likelihood we'll sell those out. But now it's just a matter of, okay, now what kind of momentum can we get? We sell traditionally many single game tickets in August. That's one of our most active single game ticket selling seasons when we have them. So my message is we're not sold out. Sometimes I run into fans anecdotally who say, well, I know I can't get a ticket because they're always sold out. I'm here today telling you we're not sold out for every game. There's tickets for every game. On the other side of that, I'm not panicking because where we're at right now, ironically, it would be possible if we didn't sell all the student season tickets because of price points. Ironically, we could end up making more money this year in ticket sales than we did last year because we would sell them for a different price. That's not my goal. My goal is to get the students in first and then fill up the stadium. That's the number one goal. So I guess let's see if there's anything else. That probably does a good job of just kind of laying out whether it's facilities, whether it's NCAA issues, hiring, ticket sales for football, etc. So from there, I'll let you start asking questions.
From an athletic director's perspective, what's the challenge of dealing with, or I guess having the funds available, or making sure that you can cover the full cost of attendance?
Well, I'll back that up and say, from an athletic director's perspective, this year our budget will be over $85 million. And so my sleepless nights are, can we cover the $85 million? Now, specifically to your question, the cost of attendance, what's the number going to be? And that depends. Is it going to be just for certain sports? Is it just going to be for football and men's basketball? By the way, I wouldn't advocate that. Or is it for every scholarship student athlete, for every sport? Because the number is significantly different depending on what that is. Whatever the number is, as long as I have a couple of years to plan for it, we'll adapt. And I'm an advocate for it. So we'll figure out a way to build it into our 5 and 10 year budget projections once we know what we're dealing with. We just, right now, it's still, I don't spend a lot of time worrying about something that I don't yet know how much it's going to be or what the cost is going to be. So once I find out how much it's going to be and that it's for sure going to happen, and then what year it's going to happen, then we'll roll up our sleeves and start to figure out, if it's 2 years from now, if we have ramp up time, we'll build it into our future budgets, and then we'll figure out how much more we can take out of current revenue streams versus how much more we might have to raise and make the puzzle all fit together.
Your predecessor obviously kind of stirred things up earlier this week.
Did he?
Yeah.
Did I miss something?
About cheating and things of that. What is your reaction? What is the state? Is it that doomsday? Is everybody just getting away with murder?
No, and I think Bob's comments were Bob was very intentional. Bob said things that we all worry about. We sit here at Iowa, and I can tell you that every coach we have is absolutely trying to do things the right way. And we have a history of coaches who act that way. It's an expectation I have. It's certainly an expectation the president has of us, and it's an expectation our fans have. So you sit here and say, I want to make sure that the enforcement across the country is strong and consistent Because if I'm sitting up here trying to do it the right way, I want to make sure that, it's not an uneven playing field. So I think I haven't spoken to Bob about it. So you have to ask Bob what his intentions were, but he's saying things that I think we all believe, and that is, there's been talk about, should we have a football enforcement group and a men's basketball enforcement group and build a staff underneath that, or outsource those? The point we all agree on is, let's make sure the playing field is level. And if that means that we need to increase, as an NCAA, we need to increase enforcement, I think that's the message he was trying to send, and I think it came through.
Gary, how much of that is into the autonomy thing too, though? Is having more control over maybe a different set of enforcement?
I think I think the time for change in college athletics is certainly here. Status quo is not going to be acceptable. They're not completely related. But it's a time for us to look at change, and I think, so autonomy and enforcement are probably two different discussions, but the time is right to talk about both.
What about the thoughts that Olympic sports might be an endangered species because of funding concern?
That's simply, again, as you sit here and try to figure out, if the courts decide one way extreme, if the courts were to say something like, you can pay student athletes, they're now employees, and you can pay some of them, but not others. Bob was simply verbalizing something that we're all trying to figure out how college athletics would change in that environment. And if it's a strict interpretation that's all the way over here, you'd have to get pragmatic about it and say, all right, we're going to offer these sports and have to cut those because you just can't, the collegiate model can't exist. I don't think that's going to happen. I think the collegiate model is a great model. And I think the collegiate model still stands for student athletes, not employees. I think the collegiate model still supports, and people still stand for, broad-based programming. For whatever reason, 100 and some years ago, we decided to have amateur sports in a collegiate model on our campuses. Other places in the country don't, or other places in the world don't do that. I think we have a great model. Can we improve it? Absolutely, but I think it's a great, a great model. And the other thing we've decided to do is we've decided to have the revenues from football and men's basketball pay for that broad-based program. I think it's a good thing. I think it's a model we've been operating under for a long time, and we should figure out a way, in my opinion, to keep doing it. It's going to have to be modified. Bob was reacting to, if that model gets blown up, if the collegiate model is completely abandoned, then it would have to be dramatic in terms of change.
Gary, there's been a groundswell of a lot of your fans who've wavered on whether or not to buy season tickets or tickets to games, and it's not so much in stadium, it's out of stadium. It's tents being removed outside the stadium. It's the the police being more active, I guess, in terms of alcohol. And I know that was a major issue 3 or 4 or 5 years ago for you. What do you say to those people who are maybe they feel the game day environment outside the stadium is keeping them from actually buying tickets inside the stadium?
Well, when you say a lot, I don't know how you define a lot. So here's what I would say to you. I haven't changed my desire to have everybody have a good time. Meaning, if there's somebody that's so intoxicated that they're ruining the time for somebody else. You remember back 3, 4, 5 years ago, however long ago it was, I referred to them as knuckleheads. I still refer to them as knuckleheads. What happened at that time is, like anything, maybe there was an overreaction. I would tell you that the fans that I'm talking to now recognize that it isn't like it was that year, that 4 years ago, and it's much better now. The vast majority of fans give me that feedback, but I think some of it still lingers from that moment in time where there was that hard reaction. So I haven't changed my desire. My desire is that I can bring my kids to a game, they can be safe, they can have a great time, and 99% of the fans do that. The 1% is how we're still trying to work through. The tents moving, that's a thing we're trying this year. I remember when we moved the mobile homes, the big buses. That was going to be the end of the world. It was going to be a disaster. Now when I talk to the RV folks that are in that new lot 75, it's a great environment. They love it. I think what we're going to find, because Scott, there were also many fans who would tell me they won't park west of Kinnick anymore because they couldn't get through. Because there was so many people there, they couldn't park. And these are Kinnick Society members. So we always try to think of what's going to make game day better. Not how we're going to punish people, what's going to make it better. Now, we're going to try this sort of this tent city, and I think it's going to be well received. It's different, and so we have to work our way through. I'm already getting great feedback from the fans who were angry because they couldn't get into their parking spot, who are saying, thank you, now I can get into my parking spot. I choose not to have a tent. We still have a great place for the people who want a tent. It's just in a slightly different spot. So whatever we do, whatever decision we make, if it's different and it's changed, we're going to get some negative feedback at first. Our goal is to make sure that over time that feedback gets better. The people who park now in that north lot where the bubble used to be, when we first did that, the feedback, oh, this is going to be horrible. I can't, that's just different. Now, people love that lot. The people that park there say it's one of the best lots there is because they can get out more quickly. So our goal isn't to punish people. Our goal is to make things better. And when we make these decisions, we're not always right, but the goal is to make it better. And I think the movement of those tents is going to make it better. We'll see.
Have you consciously or even set up within the athletics department a customer service type area or a customer service reaction? Because, season tickets are down, and I imagine, a lot of us winning, that's an easy thing, and we all realize that. But it's also, are people satisfied?
Absolutely. No, absolutely. Do we have a department that we call customer service? No, I'll tell you who our customer service department is. Our ticket office does an incredible job of taking calls and talking to people personally. Our development office, the iClub office, they are hands-on, on the phone, talking to people directly. We're making follow-up phone calls to fans if they didn't renew, asking why to see if we can learn from it. So we don't have one department. It's sort of an all hands on deck, but the two departments that get the most direct feedback are the ticket office and the iClub office. And so, we're listening. So whether it's the type of music, let's use the sound system. On any given Saturday, if the staff turned the volume up one notch, I got one part of the stadium that would be emailing me the next day or calling me the next day saying it was way too loud. But if I turned it down a notch, the other side of the stadium would say, it's not loud enough. The plan is for the new sound system to have much better distribution, so when you turn it up, it's the same everywhere in the stadium, more like that. So those are just enhancements. We know that's a concern. Whether it's tailgating, whether it's where parking is. We have a new parking approach where you now kind of reserve which lot you want to park in, and we think that's going to help distribution a little bit better. We're constantly trying to make it better. When you have 70-some thousand people, there's no way, if we ever find an idea we come up with that all 70,000 people like, other than winning the game, even then I get negative feedback because we didn't win by enough or we didn't do this. If we ever come up with an idea that 70,000 people all say is great, then I'll probably have reached that pinnacle. I got off task a little bit. Yes, we return phone calls, we return emails. We have something called a kind of a secret shopper program where we have people who go to the game. They'll buy tickets online. These are people we ask to do this. They'll buy tickets online to see how the experience is. They'll come to the gate to see how their experience is. They'll park, and they go through that process, and then they report back to Paula Jansen, her staff, on how their experience was, and if we find areas where we weren't hitting on all cylinders. So we do those things constantly. We'll never get 100% satisfaction, but we'll keep pushing.
Well, based on what you were dealing with last year at this time after a 4-8 season, how do they compare to, the season ticket sales?
Well, season ticket sales, as I told you, they're down a little bit, but we probably will come in about, a little bit, but we'll probably, last year at the end of the year, they're down a little bit from where they were at the end of the year. We'll probably come in about where we were last year. We had new people come in, and we had people leave. You have to also factor in we went through a reseeding process. And so I think everybody's familiar with that. Back in 05-06, we reseeded the stadium for the first time ever. And I promised we wouldn't do it for at least 5 years. It was 8 years later. We gave a year and a half, almost 2 years heads up, and we went through that process. So if somebody wasn't pleased with that process, or they weren't pleased with where they were going to be placed, we did have people who opted out. Now we have a lot of new people who came in, and so when it all settles in, hopefully we can be at least at where we were, if not higher.
Are you picking up on a different vibe from before and besides ticket sales and all? You guys are just
yeah. If we don't win every game, it's a failure evidently because on paper we should win them all. Of course there's a different vibe. The excitement and the anticipation and the expectations going into this. I remember last year at this time, I had fans who were telling me they didn't see how we were going to win a game. I mean, that's a little bit of an over-exaggeration, but they had already gone down the list of all, like many fans do, and like it's human nature. They go down the list last year and they couldn't figure out how we were going to win 3 games. Now this year I have fans coming to me saying, I don't figure out how you're going to lose one. And so that's normal, that's natural, that's fine, that's good. Now it's just understanding, and Kirk, as you all know, does a great job of not reacting either way. You know, we have a game in front of us, we have 2 days ahead of us. Now we have to play great in every game if we have a chance, if we're going to have a chance to win. So I think that answers your question. Of course, the mood is much more positive going into the season than it was, but you have to guard and make sure we haven't won a game yet.
Gary, with